So, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Jillian. And so, yeah, yesterday I was a little frustrated because I didn't poop yesterday and I knew there was something in there and I didn't really poop the day before. And why am I so focused on poop? Because that holds a lot of growth and antibodies that your body needs to get rid of. And it also makes you kind of feel bloated. And so, I'm not trying to be anal retentive, but I know exactly what poop does to people, especially when they have an atrophied alimentary canal. And so they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's so much growth, and then that growth turns into diagnosable conditions. And so yesterday I was like, okay, I'm just going to sit with this. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do any jelly juice, of course. I didn't even I ate a piece of fruit and all that, but I just let sleeping dogs lie, which means that I just sat with feeling bloated, even though I knew there was stuff in my system. And I had a bunch of food, not a bunch of food, but I had some food even on top of other stuff. And it was just like, okay, am I going to be, developing layers of poop strata until, then you get the halitosis and your mouth smells like or tastes like shit. And that's why people get halitosis and why they have bad breath, because they have so much crap in their system. And I could even taste, actually, when I know that I haven't pooped in like a couple of days, whatever, I could actually taste what my poop smells like. It's the weirdest thing. And it's a good thing, because then you know that you have to eliminate. You know that there is waste in your system that's going to be just torturing you until you figure out how to get it out without taking away substance. And that's the strategy of the whole JJ meta mentality. In the beginning, you do waterfalls, you recalibrate, you release some excess, and then you have to figure out how to manipulate your own diaphragm and your own alimentary canal to then get stuff out. And that means that you have to almost you have to cough, you have to blow your nose, you have to figure out how to work your sphincter. And it is a process when you have to and you train your body how to respond to what you want it to do. But even if it doesn't respond to what you want it to do, you let sleeping dogs lie. And I did. And so then this morning my husband came home, and I know when he did the J juice, and he was really constipated afterwards because he drank a whole quart of it. He was like, at first he was doing the waterfalls and he had the eczema come up, but then he got constipated the next day. And then he's like, he was frustrated. He was pissed because his usual thing is to go poo every morning, right? And then you're taking something like J juice, it's going to really reconfigure your biochemistry, and it's going to mess things up relative to what you expect. Not mess it up literally, but really just take things a little bit different. And so then he drank like a big glass of milk, and then he was able to poop. And so I'm like, okay, maybe when I woke up this morning, I didn't feel any urges to poop. Usually when I wake up in the morning, there's something that, it tells me that I have to go poop, I have to do this, I'm farting, whatever, my system's online. Didn't feel anything like that. It was as if I wake up and I felt okay, but I knew I had stuff in my system, but it wasn't like I didn't feel any of my bowels moving. And it was just the weirdest thing, because usually every morning my bowels move. Okay. So I'm like, okay, my husband's home and he's pooping right now. And I'm like, okay, Jason, when he comes up the stairs, I'm going to drink a glass of milk. And then he actually had like an energy drink inside of the fridge. And I'm like, can I drink a little of this? Because it's an energy drink of coffee. It's like a Starbucks energy drink. He's like, yeah, go ahead. I'm like, okay. So I poured a glass of milk, add some energy drink to it, like the whole thing. I didn't drink the whole thing, but I drank a bunch of milk. And then I took my dog out, and I felt something. I felt energy in my colon. I'm like, okay. And so that's when everything comes out. And I was also hocking up loogies. So you know that milk brings up mucus. That is a good thing. That is growth. Okay? If you're adding to your gut bacteria, to all of the lactobacillus that is fermenting in your gut, that is the prime communication points between all points in between. Okay, as well as the fungus and the candida and all that stuff. Not candida, but the yeast. And so there was growth going on, which means I was hawking up loogies. Okay, great. And then I felt the movement in my belly. And it was a little painful getting some of this poop out, because yes, it did activate my immune system and my alimentary canal to push stuff out, but there's also growth going on. And so then you have to think about, you just reinforced your army of bacteria to send messages to get things going, because the body knows there's something that's trying to stop it from releasing. And remember, you're in a I would say you're in a skirmish. I won't even say it's a battle. You're not fighting anything, but you have to also reinforce your side of the equation, because even though you're kind of locked in this alter ego of the monster wanting to take control and you wanting to take control, and you have to find a way to be a happy medium, and that's very difficult in a partnership, right? Then you both have to then find that happy medium. Okay? And so food is going to be your go-to. And so when people have lactose intolerance, they feel pain, they're pooping a lot. Maybe they need to poop a lot. They feel pain because of growth. And so when someone says they're allergic to milk and they're lactose intolerant, why does it say intolerant? Because intolerant doesn't mean that it's poison. No food is poison out there. It just means that you haven't figured out how to deal with and assimilate to growth in your body, to growing the bacteria that needs to proliferate and replicate. So that way it can arm itself with the necessary resources to keep you alive. But you know what people do? They say, okay, I'm a lactose intolerant, so I'll switch to soy. Okay, soy. Soy is it's a plant protein. It's a complete protein. But you really need milk. But can you tell someone who doesn't want to feel pain and doesn't want to feel the pain of growth and evolution that they should drink milk? And you know how parents are when parents don't understand mucus and their kid drinks milk and the kid's now like mucusing up. The parent is not teaching that kid how to blow their nose. No, their parent is saying, okay, well then no milk for you. And so now this kid's in nutritional deficit. And that's why we have such malnourished children, because parents don't want to deal with the growth and the evolution of their child. They want the easiest way to raise their kid, even at the expense of the kid's future. And that's pretty sad, but that's all over the fucking world. And that's my source of frustration, which is why I don't have kids, because that's a lot of work. And then I don't want to be around other people's children too much, because it's like, okay, you know, I mean, yeah, you have a cute kid, that's great, but it's a kid. It'll turn into an adult, but it's a kid, and I don't really have any influence, and I'm not going to be another person reinforcing their bad behavior if they do have bad behavior. And so I'll wait till the kid grows up and get to know the kid later on, if daddy's even, you know. And let me tell you, but people are like, well, you can be an influence. Not really, because the parents are the influence. When I was a nanny, I was an influence, yes, but when you think about it, the kid was always taking cues from the parents. Of course, because I was just the nanny. When it's all said and done, that kid is that parent's, that kid is that kid's parent, whatever. That kid belongs to the parents. I'm just the hired help to make sure they don't hurt themselves. But in all actuality, any kind of influence, it's all gone. I wasn't around long enough to really be influential. Okay? And even if I was influential, it would have to be in a very specific controlled circumstance. So that's why nannies are vetted out very carefully, because they don't want someone coming in and upsetting the homeostasis. So when I was a nanny, I was like 20 years old. So I still bought into the system, so it was fine. And so anyways, and so yeah, so I feel a lot more energetic. Yesterday I was feeling kind of sluggish. Yesterday I was just like, and I took a nap, and I didn't see any corn come out, but I saw a little bit of the yam skins come out, which means that I'm getting closer to the strata of Saturn. You're like, geez, Jillian, you get that technical? Well, I mean, I'll tell you, when you understand how fast or how slow your system works, and then you understand how your body responds to certain foods, and then you understand the nutritional benefits of those foods, and then what's going on in your body at the time, is the picture starts developing. Then you will start seeing patterns, and you'll understand how really to take care of yourself, because you're so fucking aware of everything that goes in your body and everything that comes out. And that's why the group way back in the beginning was so amazing, because it had everyone show their poop. Yeah, okay. But people were understanding what was coming out of their body. They had parasites. I had corn nuts with these little squiggly things, okay, that were coming out of my body. I haven't seen those at all since way in the beginning. So I was releasing corn nuts, I was releasing worms, not literally corn nuts, but they were like pods of parasites, pods of bacteria. I even still see a little bit of mycoplasma still come out, because I'm still residually releasing stuff from the pneumonia and the COVID. But I'm on the other side of it. But it's still, you know, when you still have some residual monster in your body, you still have to fight for yourself and submit to the monster. But that doesn't mean when you submit to the monster, it means you just work your different orifices to get stuff out, but you don't go and take something so aggressive that it tells a monster that you're fighting its mechanisms. When you're eating food, you are saying, I'm feeding both of you. And let the strongest man win. Okay, so you're really actually, what are you? You're like Sweden. You're just giving the resources to both sides and let the strongest man win. And sometimes the strongest man is the monster. And when the monster is allowed to get that metastasized and that influential, then you're screwed. So that's what people say, well, when you eat sugar, when you eat this, you're feeding the cancer. Well, yeah, when you let your body get to be that bad and you let that monster metastasize so much for such a long time, absolutely the food now is feeding the monster. It's going to destroy you. But when you start releasing the monster and now it's feeding you, any food you give yourself is going to be feeding you and reinforcing your army, and then you're allowing the monster to take up a little bit of residence, but not take over. Okay? And that's a really difficult concept if you don't understand that you do have two sides to you. There's that the community of bacteria that are very influential, and then you have your own, you have your spirit, you have your way of life, you have you that also wants to live. And there is going to be that's the whole good and evil. That's, now I get what good and evil is. Because if you're fighting for your life and fighting for your autonomy, then you're going to look at the mycoplasma and all the bacteria they're trying to take over as the evil one. And that's what all these battles are about, and we don't know who's good and evil out there, right? But we know people are fighting battles within themselves, and it translates out there. And so then people have this characterization of who's evil based upon their politics, religion, and scientific dogmas. And so then we even program what is evil to people, and it's different for everybody. That's why you can't ask someone universally what is evil, because you will get 50 million different responses. And so then you have to look at how that translates an allegory within your body and the mycoplasma and the diseases, and then you as an autonomous human being that's trying to stay alive. And then now you have to figure out, before, again, 50 years ago, we had relative control over the monster in our body because we weren't taking so many antibiotics. And if we were, okay, but we still had strong bodies, so we were able to control that monster. And then people still died anyways, but we were able to control that monster. There wasn't such a prevalence of exotic diseases. But since then, we keep procreating on bodies in deficit. You saw what happened in 1969. Everyone's love, 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 all on the drug, hippie, LSD, free love, free sex, all that stuff. And then 1999, the children of those people in 1969 were angry. They were pissed. And the parents exploited the children. So even though Michael Lang and all of his promoters for that whole venue weren't directly parents to these children, they were the adults that were exploiting the children. So that's what I'm saying. Parents can exploit the children. It happened in 1999 with the Woodstock, because they were ripping off the kids left and right, exploiting the hell out of them. And so that's why love is exploitation. And so when you keep procreating on bodies in deficit, the monster is going to become angrier and angrier, homicidal, suffering, and then turning to the addictions to self-medicate. And so if I learned anything within the last couple weeks, I realized I have to submit to the monster inside. And then when the monster realizes that if there's no more fight anymore, that doesn't have to be triggered into battle, it will relax. And then you can work cohesively together. But you have to respect the monster inside. People don't. They keep attacking the monster with antibiotics, with remedies, with starvation, with surgery. Imagine if someone cut into you. You'd be pissed, right? When someone stabs you, you'd be fucking pissed. Well, what do you think when you have someone cutting into you on the surgery table? What do you think the monster's going to be? He's going to be fucking pissed. When you're constantly getting drunk or doing drugs or having a bunch of sex, the monster is going to get then caught up in that. It's going to turn into a bigger monster, a more drunken monster. And that's why alcohol brings out the worst in people, brings out the monster in people. Their demons are like raging. Okay? Cannabis kind of like inebriate or anesthetizes the monster, but the monster's like, fuck, I don't want to be under this fog of whatever. And so then you see this monster is going to be reacting to every single lifestyle choice. until you submit and deal with how to take care of your body, because how you take care of your body is how you will take care of that monster inside to then lessen the monster's rage. And that's allegory. That's what the Bible is about. That's what all the grim fairy tales are about. That's what all these movies are about. The horror movies, to the love movies, to all the action adventure movies. Everything's about taming the monster, fighting the monster, submitting to the monster. And I'll tell you, when someone is that bioengineered, where they get so much innovation that was not earned, the monster's like, damn, I'm being bioengineered. Okay, well, we'll last for a certain amount of time, but I'm telling you, that stuff, that bioengineering, you're going to have to pay for. You were giving gifts from somebody that didn't tell you the payment system, didn't tell you Mother Nature's payment system. And so that's why those who are type A and type B, who have been given the gift of intelligence, given so many gifts, because that's what all the surface marker antigen, it's all innovation. You're going to have some shit in your DNA, and that's why I tell you to prepare for the worst. Make sure you have money put aside so when you have to take a year off of work so you can deal with some stuff. Okay? Or whatever, because I've been doing this for 6 years. But I'll tell you, if I knew how much I had to deal with, I wouldn't have been doing so much J juice back then. I would do a few waterfalls and then deal with all the sickness and go through the process of figuring out my alimentary canal. And so it would take a year to really get my body up to level where I understood how to control the areas I needed to control, what I had to deal with when I knew something was coming on. And so I would get used to it in that year. And so then if I had to go to work and then I still had to deal with certain predisposed issues, it wouldn't be a surprise. Okay, so when you take a year off of work and then you don't do so much J juice, you do a little bit to catalyze stuff, but when you get exposed to a virus that really wakes stuff up, you might do a few waterfalls, but that's it. Now you have to feed yourself. You keep feeding yourself, getting the poop out, feeding yourself, getting the poop out, drink water. You don't need to do any J juice because you don't want to cure yourself, and you eat food and you deal with the pains, whatever they are, and they could be so many different pains. And that could be a year-long process. So again, with hindsight 2020, if I were to do it over again, I would have been off the J juice after the first freaking month. When I saw that I was losing a bunch of weight, I would then deal with feeling the hot flashes, feeling everything. If I got exposed to COVID, I would deal with that. But remember, back then we didn't know. We just knew that some of us were getting a catalyst of energy and some of us were getting a cure. And so now we understand you have to face the pain. And so, again, save up for a year, because that year could be really influential for you to getting your body online, to know how to respond to any variant out there waking up the monster inside, because that's what's going on. All these variants are waking up people's monsters. And so that's why everyone reacts differently to the variants. Okay? And you saw the hives that I went through, the backaches, oh geez, the hump on the back of my neck, the stiff neck. I mean, these were all predisposed issues. It wasn't like the COVID did it to me. It was just a catalyst. I had them inside already. Some people, J juice will be a catalyst to bring up the predisposed issues. But again, if you are that bioengineered and you're a type A and type B, you may have some pretty heavy duty shit that you're going to have to face. And that's the unanticipated flood of predisposed issues. And when that happens, and you can't see, can't walk, can't hear, that's when you need to know you have somebody who will help take care. And if that means that you hire a nurse, or I don't know, delivery services, or you have a neighbor or a friend or somebody. See, people can be alone and that's great. Have at least one person that you can kind of count on, that knows what you're doing, that knows what could potentially happen. At least one person. But if they're like on their last legs and they die before you're able to use them to help you, bring you water or show you where the bathroom, that's the thing, is that we have delivery services, but you have to see. If you can't see, then you have to have someone that's the worst case scenario. So This is where strategy is going to come into play. Again, Ashton Kutcher has a whole host of people working with him. Some of you hardly have anybody. Okay, and that's okay, because you have people who are just really, toxic in your life, and so you release all everybody. And so then when you do face your demons, and they're pretty aggressive, you gotta have somebody, and maybe you, and see, I'm trying to think, could you call the public health and say, I need somebody? You could call, I don't know how that would work. That's an area that I'm not familiar with, that I didn't even realize to a lot of extent. Because people, when they do feel stuff, they go to the hospital, go to the doctor, they get the antibiotics, and try to get their sight back or try to get their hearing back. But when you go down that road, you're going behind the 8 ball. So how do you deal with your issues, worst case scenario, and find somebody? Well, you might have to find, you'll figure that out. Have somebody, a backup person, in case you get to that point. And you guys will have to be strategic about it. But that's what's in some people's future. It's not in mine, thank gosh. But if it was, my husband would, well, he's on the road, but if it really came to that point where I couldn't see, hear, and walk and talk, he would stay home, but we wouldn't have money coming in, so that wouldn't work. So there was no way I could really entertain that. And so I had to really get through whatever I got through. And so let me tell you, when I was sleeping for hours and days, and my dog was needing to go out, there was poop and pee on the floor down here, but that was like one day when I really could not get out of bed at all. Okay? And that's where you're gonna have to figure out, are you prepared for that? What kind of planning have you in case that day comes? It's not like it's gonna happen forever, but you're gonna have somebody or something, a backup plan, if that day ever comes. And there's no telling. Okay, so you have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I didn't realize vasculitis could be the worst for some people. And then what I dealt with could be the best. All right, bye.